This is Sports Charlotte, the podcast about sports in Charlotte. My name is Herb White. I'm editor-in-chief at the Charlotte Post. This is Cameron Williams, who is staff reporter at the Post. It is Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025, and it is a huge week for college football in Charlotte. But before we get to that, let's review a little basketball. And the Charlotte Hornets managed to do what no Hornets team has ever done. They won some sort of trophy.
That's right.
A tournament even. The NBA Summer League title is theirs. First time for the franchise. And it was a fairly impressive run. Went 6-0 and knocked off Sacramento in the final. Of course, it doesn't mean anything in the great scheme of basketball history. But what can the Hornets get out of it?
In the scheme of history, it doesn't mean anything. But what this does for an organization who has not been very good for, well, quite frankly, their history. I mean, for a short spurt in the 90s, and then they made the playoffs a few times in the early, 2010s, I guess you could say.
They had a couple of them, yeah.
This is huge. I mean, when you say a Summer League championship's huge, you kind of want to laugh. But at the same time...
I'm laughing.
I can, yeah. But from a morale standpoint, what this does for an organization to say, okay, the players that we've drafted, at least, are capable of coming together as a unit, playing a brand of basketball that's good enough to win. Now, is it winning against the Sacramento Kings with Domantas Sabonis, or is it winning against the Spurs with Wembanyama? No. Now, to be fair, the Hornets weren't playing with LaMelo Ball or Miles Bridges or any of those guys either. So, just looking at the rookies and the second-year guys and some of the guys they have on the team that were always in the G League, rather, they put together a good product. And I think that's the biggest takeaway you can take from a Summer League championship is that we can win. Now it's about just putting the pieces together with a NBA roster and NBA rotation and do it at the NBA level, not the Summer League where it's a bunch of rookies and second-year players.
My thought is the floor is so low for the Hornets that you have to find joy in a Summer League title. NBA history, sports history does not chronicle Summer League titles. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I understand what you're trying to get at in terms of you want to be able to build the culture of winning starting with Summer League. I get that part. But when you are left to embrace a Summer League title, it just tells me you have a long way to go. And you have been starved for so long until you'll get whatever you can find. Pull it out of the dirt, shine it up as best you can, put it on the mantle, and hope that it will translate into something once fall rolls around.
This is why he's the glass half empty kind of guy. I'm the glass half full kind of guy.
I'm just looking at it and keeping it real. That's all.
Yeah, but everyone knows the Summer League is not
the league.
Well, yeah, but my point is like you can't try to diminish going undefeated a whole 2-week Summer League session and winning what they deem as the championship. I mean, for the Hornets to have constantly gotten top picks over the last however many years and they haven't won it yet. So, to me, I think it's a step in the right direction.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I think the young people that they have in-house now at least can give them some idea of maybe we can build an actual NBA rotation that will survive the travails of a season,
Yeah.
whether it's injury or lack of production or whatever. Maybe those younger people now can step in and do some things that last year's rookie class was thrown into the fire over and had to learn the hard way, bouncing back and forth between Greensboro and Charlotte, getting those minutes when injuries decimated the backcourt.
Mm-hmm.
That's good experience. And we talked about that at length during the season. And those folks like KJ Simpson, Tijon Salon, hopefully that experience will help them more than it will this year's rookie class. I mean, because those rookies are still just that. They're going to be rookies, and they're still going to have to find ways to figure out the NBA life. But people like Simpson and Salon, who have been in the middle of it, had to learn the hard way, I think it will help their growth immediately once training camp gets underway and then the season itself. I just think that they are the main beneficiaries of this summer experience.
Yeah, I can see that. But look, I look at the growth of some of the rookies as well. I mean, Conkin Nipple comes out there. He's the 4th overall pick. There were expectations for him. Didn't have a great first game. Backs it up with several solid outings, and then 21 in the championship game to win the championship MVP. So you saw his growth and development over a short 2-week span. You saw Liam McNeely burst on the scene, and I mean he looked like a seasoned vet from game 1. Ryan Kalkbrenner also kind of did his defensive thing in the first game, but then you saw his growth, and he started scoring a little bit better, rebounding a little bit higher level, while continuing to maintain that defensive, I guess, presence that he was known for when he was drafted. I think across the board, we saw a lot of growth from both the rookies and some of the second-year players. And KJ Simpson he was rather straightforward. He's like, I hope this summer has really shown that, I'm a valuable asset. I can be resourceful on the team, because at least in my opinion, being bounced around from the NBA to the G League kind of can weigh on a player, because I'm good enough whenever this guy's not playing, but then whenever this guy comes back, I'm back to Greensboro. So hopefully there's some spot, whether it be reserve point guard or even third string point guard, because gracious, the Hornets have a lot of guards right now.
And that's going to be a problem for some of these guys.
I think it will be too. But after the performance he put up in the summer, I don't know how you could cut KJ Simpson. I mean, the dude had a really, really strong summer. So overall, I think it was a great experience for both the second-year guys and the rookies. And like I said, I mean, a championship's a championship, whether it's T-ball or the World Series.
Okay, it's a participation trophy almost. A trophy's a trophy.
Half empty.
But then there's the trophy. And they have yet to hoist the Larry O'Brien. You give me a call when they do that.
I think it's just as valuable as the NBA Cup in the middle of the season.
But that's another participation trophy that I don't feel like getting into today, because that's an empty calorie trophy too.
Fair enough. But enough with the basketball. The basketball will be back in no time.
Yeah.
Shifting gears to the gridiron.
Mm-hmm.
The ACC has their media week here in Charlotte. It's been going on yesterday, today. But none of the North Carolina teams, well, other than Wake Forest. Sorry, Wake. Wake's going at the end of the day. But Duke, North Carolina, NC State, they'll all be tomorrow. That's at least who we at the Post try to cover. More so on the North Carolina and NC State side, because they've got some locals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In terms of the ACC, I guess there's only but so much buzz that can be generated by ACC football. Let's face it, nationally, it's an afterthought. No matter what anybody tries to tell you, it's all about the Big Ten the SEC, and then also participating Big 12, ACC. I'm just throwing it out there and keeping it 100.
I don't think the ACC has gotten that bad. I think from a football branding perspective, it's all your SECs and Big Tens are always going to be at the top.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any change in that. I don't think the guys at the top of the ACC, I'm talking about that work with the conference, are that naive to think they can overtake that. It's just not going to happen unless something unforeseen happens where
a national title.
Well, I mean, they've had that with Clemson, but my point, I mean, and even going further back, I mean, your Miamis and all this stuff, but I'm talking about from just the brand, the football brand. Unless you get an Alabama, an LSU, Oklahoma, or Texas Texas just joined the SEC, so they're not leaving for a while probably, but unless you get a chunk of teams from one of those conferences or even handpick a few from one or get a few from the Big Ten to come to the ACC, they're not going to reach that level of branding nor exposure. But I'll say across the board competitively, Clemson stands kind of at the top and then Miami shortly thereafter. But there could be some parity in this league. I mean, every question mark surrounding North Carolina with the whole Bill Belichick experiment still kind of – and I mean, I rank them pretty low just because I don't know enough about them right now. I don't know what Bill Belichick's coaching style and how that'll mesh with the college game. I don't know if they brought in enough transfers after who they had leave to help, kind of replenish a roster. But I mean, I've got Clemson and Miami at the top. I don't think, unless there's some unforeseen injuries that happen, that won't be the case. Unless Dabo just forgets how to coach at Clemson, or unless Carson Beck, the transfer quarterback, forgets how to throw a football in Miami. Their roster composition, coaching, and just overall experience of being a big name brand, those two are at the top. But then, I mean, I look at Louisville, SMU, and Duke even. I mean, Duke had one of the best transfer classes in the ACC. They get a quarterback from Tulane who he might not be Cade Klubnik from Clemson good, but this kid is going to be really, really special. He's a sophomore this year, and he'll be ready to take over because Malik Murphy, who was Duke's quarterback last year, exited stage right to Oregon State, of all places. Imagine going down the totem pole from Ohio State to Duke to Oregon State.
Which is playing in a, reconstituted Pac-12 now? Yeah.
My point being...
Talking about branding.
His game's not going up. It's going the other way.
Well, it's who's paying these days.
Well, that's true, but then you have a guy like Mensah who's proven that his talent level right now is probably better than the American Conference, which is now the American Conference, not the American Athletic Conference. We'll talk about that in another podcast.
Yeah.
But he's moving up, and so all this, let me get out of the rabbit hole to say, I think Duke could finish anywhere from like 3rd to 5th, maybe 6th if they have a really bad season. But defensively, Duke's going to be strong again. And offensively, I think if their offensive line holds up, which they got a couple of guys in the portal to help, bolster that offensive line, they could be good. I mean, they lost their running back, Star Thomas, to Tennessee, but bring in another running back. So Duke could be solid. Then I look at Georgia Tech, Florida State, Pittsburgh. I don't want to say middling teams, but Florida State hadn't been Florida State in quite some time. I don't know if it was a psyche thing. I mean, I know there were some coaching changes and there were some players depart and all this stuff, but the year Jordan Travis took them to 13-0, got hurt in the championship game, and then they didn't make the CFP because of that. It's been downhill ever since.
Yeah.
They bring in DJ Underlay, and whew,
that was not so great either.
That was a dumpster fire. But just going on down a little bit, I rank Syracuse 10th. Boston College is one of those teams that's like they either have a really solid season or just a putrid season. I see them being around the middle of the pack. But then NC State, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, and then the schools out west, California and Stanford rounding out the bunch.
bringing up the rear, literally.
They weren't. California had flashes last year. I'd say there were some glimpses where they pushed Miami for a little bit. They were in games, but they couldn't get over the hump and win games. And ultimately, what matters?
Winning.
The W's and L's.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean Stanford, they're just not good. They brought in Frank Reich though. Overall, how would you rank my ballot? Assuming, because see, I had to give an official ranking. I couldn't be like, well, this team could be interchangeable here. But I have Clemson, Miami, Duke, Louisville, SMU, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Pittsburgh, Virginia, Syracuse, Boston College, NC State, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, California, and Stanford.
I think that will do just fine under regular circumstances. Clemson is the safe and sexy pick. There's no reason to argue with the logic because they won the title last year. They have arguably the best coach in the conference, and they usually have a roster that can compete. So you don't have to step out on a limb to say Clemson will win it all. Although, if I'm going to step out on a limb and take a team, I would take Miami.
I got them second.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I'm just saying that's the one that I would step out on a limb with. If there are some folks who might think that SMU would be the team that you get out on the limb with because they had such a good season last year and made it to the playoffs. And that's great, especially since it was their first season making the transition over from the American. Mm-hmm. So I think that is, if you're going to get out on the limb, that's a good team to take. But I will get out on the limb and say Miami. So Miami, because they have a quarterback. And as we know in the modern game, if you've got a quarterback, you've got a chance. So,
and Cade Klubnik, he got a really bad rep because you got to understand, Clemson, from a fan base perspective, they had Deshaun Watson. Well, really before him, they had Taj Boyd, they had Deshaun Watson, they had Trevor Lawrence, and then the DJ Underlay experience kind of fell flat. But then they have another great quarterback in Cade Klubnik, kind of looks like Trevor Lawrence, kind of has the build, has the tall frame.
That's the college Lawrence, not the Jaguars Lawrence.
He hadn't got a lick of help where he's at right now, but I digress. Trevor Lawrence in college, that was a bad man. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was insanely talented. But my point being is Cade was expected to be that. And all I know is, this kid, Trevor, when you're talking about Trevor Lawrence, he was getting D1 offers in like 7th and 8th grade. It's kind of hard to be that guy. He was number one. I mean, you were hearing about him. I can remember stories of my uncle saying, "There's this kid out of Cartersville, Georgia. Man, this kid is going to be like the next big thing." Turns out he was right. And we're talking. This is 2013. I'm still in middle school. We're at a high school football game one night, and you're like, "This kid, Trevor Lawrence. Just watch out for him." Cade was expected to be that. He wasn't that, but I think Cade has rounded into a really solid quarterback. I had him preseason player of the year. And that's no disrespect to Carson Beck because I know he's played in the SEC. He knows the highest level of football, at least at the college level. But I think Cade, he's ready to take that next step. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt that. He is getting a fair amount of hype as one of the best players in the country. I don't see any reason to pick against him necessarily. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking that if Miami has any semblance of defense, and that's what they've been riding on for a while, I think. Yeah. And with Carson Beck, if he's fully recovered from injury, then I think the Hurricanes will be heard from. Maybe the ACC title, maybe the postseason tournament. either way, I think that if the ACC is going to get multiple teams into the postseason, Miami will be one of those squads.
Oh, I mean, I'm not saying they won't be either. And see, last year you thought I was a little bit crazy for thinking that Miami could be. I think I had Miami ranked second in the preseason last year behind Clemson. Then I had SMU third. And people, I can remember people at ACC Media Week saying I was crazy for that. And then at the end of the year, I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. But I also think that SMU is going to be in the hunt as well. Like I said before, coming off what they did last year and making that transition, now they know what goes into competing in this conference. And you can build an appropriate team as a result of that. Plus, I still think that you cannot underestimate the level of talent that SMU can go out and get in the state of Texas. And I think that that will help them immensely when you're talking about the recruiting that now they can do with the ACC brand. It's not Big Ten, it's not SEC, but it is a national brand. And after spending, what, 3-4 decades out in the wilderness, basically,
yeah.
SMU is in position now to really turn it up in terms of its own football program and what it can do. So I wouldn't necessarily sleep on them as well. So Clemson, Miami, SMU, I think throw a blanket over those three.
Whew.
And Duke may be
What do you think
a
about
really good dark horse.
That's what I was going to say. Duke and Louisville. I mean, Louisville's not going to be shabby.
Well, yeah. If I had to pick between Duke and Louisville. Yeah. I would say Louisville. Not to say that Duke won't be good. If Duke can get a couple of upsets here and there, they're going to move up, obviously, in a lot of folks' esteem. But I still think it's going to be those three, Duke, Louisville, and then whatever after that.
No, fair enough. I've got SMU fifth. When I was ranking them, I was looking at their transfer portal class, and they had a lot of departures. Some that are going to be key. I don't know if they replaced enough to make another run for an ACC championship. I know that championship game last year was one of the best in a while because Clemson just goes out there, they no pun intended, but they blitz the mess out of SMU, and I remember tweeting out, I'm like, well, so far Clemson, they look like they've been here before, and then parentheses, they have been. SMU doesn't look like they've been here before. They haven't.
Yeah.
The halftime adjustments that SMU made to be able to come back in that game and force Clemson to hit a field goal late to win the game, it was impressive. I'm gonna give them their props. We're all about giving props on here. But ultimately, I think the better team won. And I mean, it was cool that Charlotte Mecklenburg local Nolan Hauser was able to hit that field goal, but I just don't know if they've replaced enough that they lost to make another run at it. That's all opinions. I mean,
absolutely,
there are going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these little ballots that they're going to have to sift through and say, okay, this many people had Clemson first, this many people had Miami first or second, this many people had,
Sure.
It's a matter of opinion, but that's my ballot. I'm going to stick to it.